I want to talk to you today about a pattern that doctors and researchers have known about for decades, but that most people have never been told, and it concerns the time of day. Heart attacks, and strokes too, do not spread themselves evenly around the clock. They cluster, and they cluster in the morning, roughly from the hour of waking through mid-morning, with research consistently showing that the first few hours after getting up carry the highest risk of the entire day, and that heart attacks are meaningfully more common in the morning hours than at any other time. Now, I want to say immediately, and in the calm spirit this channel always keeps, this is not a reason to fear your mornings, and it is certainly not a reason to dread waking up. Mornings are not dangerous for a healthy heart going about its day. But understanding why this morning clustering happens is genuinely worthwhile because the reasons are well understood. They involve things your body does automatically every dawn. And, most usefully of all, nearly every factor in the morning surge can be softened by a handful of gentle, sensible habits, none of them dramatic, all of them worth knowing. So today, in partnership with your doctor as always, let me walk you through why the morning is the heart's busiest hour and how to move through it wisely. So today I'll explain the morning surge, the automatic changes your body makes at dawn and why they load the heart, the role of blood pressure's morning rise, and what it means for how your pressure is managed, the morning behaviors that add avoidable strain and their gentle alternatives, how to build a heart-kind first hour from waking to breakfast, the medication timing question you should ask, never answer alone, and, as always and most importantly, the morning symptoms that must never be explained away, because the same clustering that makes mornings busier makes morning symptoms more meaningful. And I'll keep this calm, balanced, and in proportion throughout, because the goal is a wiser morning, not an anxious one. Let me begin with what your body actually does at dawn. Let me explain the morning surge, because it's a remarkable piece of biology. In the last hours of sleep before you even open your eyes, your body begins preparing you for the day, and it does so with chemistry. The stress hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol rise sharply toward dawn. This is normal and necessary. It's your body's ignition sequence, raising alertness, mobilizing energy, and readying the muscles. But that same ignition sequence asks things of the heart. The rising adrenaline makes the heart beat faster and harder, and it tightens the blood vessels, which raises blood pressure, so blood pressure, which fell to its lowest level during deep sleep, climbs steeply in the early morning. Doctors call this the morning surge. And in the same early hours, the blood itself becomes stickier. The clotting cells, the platelets, are more active in the morning, and the body's natural clot dissolving system runs at its daily low. Put those together, a heart working harder, vessels tighter, pressure rising fast, blood more prone to clot, and you can see why in a person whose arteries already carry the narrowings and fragile plaques of heart disease. The morning is when trouble is statistically most likely to find its moment. A plaque that ruptures meets blood that's ready to clot at the very hour the pressure is surging. That, in essence, is the morning clustering, not a mystery, but an overlap of normal dawn biology with vulnerable arteries. So the morning surge is your body's ignition sequence. Hormones up, pressure climbing, blood stickier, harmless in health, demanding in heart disease, and everything else in this video flows from respecting it. Let me turn now to what this means in practice, starting with blood pressure. Let me talk about the morning and your blood pressure because this is where the surge meets your daily management. As I've said, blood pressure dips during healthy sleep and surges toward morning, and in some people, particularly older adults, those with stiffened arteries, kidney conditions, or untreated sleep apnea, that morning surge is exaggerated or the nighttime dip never happens at all, and research links both patterns, the exaggerated surge and the absent dip, with higher cardiovascular risk. Now, what should you actually do with that knowledge? Three sensible things, and none of them is worry. First, if you monitor your blood pressure at home, include some morning readings taken properly after you've been up a little while, seated, rested, before the day's rush, because morning readings alongside evening ones give your doctor the fullest picture of how your pressure behaves around the clock, a picture the single midday clinic reading can miss. Second, if your morning readings run consistently higher than your evening ones, that is genuinely worth showing your doctor, not alarming, but informative. It can shape decisions about which medications you take and sometimes when you take them. And third, this brings us to the medication timing question. Some blood pressure medications are traditionally taken in the morning, and researchers have studied whether evening dosing might cover the dawn surge better for some people. The honest summary is that the evidence has gone back and forth, and the right timing depends on your particular medications and your particular pattern, which is exactly why this is a question to ask your doctor. Worded simply, given my morning readings, is the timing of my medications right for me, and never ever a change to make on your own, because as I've said across this channel, self-adjusted medication is how well-meant knowledge becomes harm. So include mornings in your home readings, show your doctor if mornings run high, and ask the timing question rather than answering it yourself. Let me turn now to the morning behaviors because this is where your own hands are on the levers. Let me walk through the morning behaviors that add avoidable strain to the surge and their gentle alternatives, and you'll notice these echo things I've said in other videos, arranged now around the clock's most demanding hour. The first is the leap out of bed, going from horizontal sleep to upright hurry in seconds, which stacks a blood pressure challenge on top of the surge, and for those on pressure medications or water tablets, invites the dizziness and falls I've discussed. The alternative is the staged rising you may have heard me describe, a minute of ankle pumps before sitting up, a pause seated on the bed's edge, a slow stand, gentle, unhurried, kind to the system. The second is the immediate rush, the alarm to obligations sprint, emails before breakfast, stressful news with the first cup, the school run at speed, all of which pour extra adrenaline on a system already at its daily adrenaline peak. The alternative is simply sequencing the morning so its first half hour is calm, the unhurried wash and dress, breakfast before the news, the difficult phone calls parked until mid-morning. This is not indulgence, it's load management for the heart's busiest hour. The third is heavy exertion first thing, and here I want to be careful and balanced. Exercise is profoundly good for your heart, and morning exercise is good exercise. But there's a sensible distinction between moving gently in the morning, a walk, easy stretching, unhurried activity, and launching cold into the heaviest efforts, the snow shoveling, the heavy lifting, the sprint for the bus. In the first hour after waking, particularly in cold weather, which adds its own vessel tightening, and particularly for those with known heart disease, the alternative is timing your harder efforts for later morning onward, warming up properly always, and treating cold morning heavy exertion. Snow shoveling above all with genuine respect, as I've discussed before. The fourth is the smoking and strong coffee start. For smokers, the first cigarette of the morning lands its vessel tightening on top of the surge. One more of the many reasons quitting remains the single best gift to your heart, and caffeine, for most people in moderation, is perfectly fine. But very strong coffee on an empty stomach in someone sensitive to palpitations is worth noticing and moderating. And the fifth is skipping fluids. You wake mildly dehydrated every morning, as I've discussed, and thicker blood in the sticky morning hours is not the combination you want. The alternative costs nothing. A glass of water early in the morning, an easy, sensible habit. So rise in stages, sequence the calm first, save the heavy efforts for later and warm up always, respect the smoking and empty stomach coffee effects, and drink the morning water, 5 gentle levers, all in your hands. Let me now put the whole morning together because it makes a reassuring picture. Let me describe the heart-kind first hour not as a rigid program, but as a shape your mornings can settle into. Wake and before rising, a quiet minute, some ankle pumps, a few slow breaths, letting the system come online. Rise in stages, bed's edge, pause, stand, pause, then move. A glass of water, the bathroom, the wash, the dressing, unhurried. Breakfast, and hear a word for it. A modest breakfast matters more after 70 than people think. It steadies blood sugar. It's the traditional anchor for morning medications. And taking the day's first demands fed rather than fasting is kinder to the whole system than the medications taken faithfully, exactly as prescribed, because, and this deserves its own sentence, the morning surge is precisely why your daily consistency with prescribed heart and pressure medications matters so much. They are, for many of you, the very thing smoothing that surge, much, and the worst possible habit is the skipped or double dose. If you struggle with remembering, the weekly pill organizer and the routine anchor, same time, same breakfast, are the humble tools that protect you. Then the gentle start to activity, the walk, the light tasks, with the harder efforts held for later morning, and the difficult conversations and stresses where life allows, held back with them. None of this is elaborate. Read it again, and it's simply a calm, watered, fed, medicated, staged morning, but held against the biology of the surge. Every element is load management, and together they turn the day's statistically demanding hour into an ordinary one. So the heart kind first hour is calm, staged, watered, fed, and medicated, gentle first, vigorous later. That's the whole shape. And now, the most important section, as it always is on this channel, the symptoms, because the morning clustering cuts one more way. Let me be very clear about morning symptoms, because here is the flip side of everything I've explained. The same clustering that makes mornings the heart's busiest hour makes new symptoms in the morning more meaningful, not less, and yet the morning is exactly when people explain symptoms away. I slept funny, I got up too fast, I just need my coffee. The morning is medicine's great excuse factory, and I need you to close it. So, plainly, chest pain, pressure, tightness, or heaviness on waking or in the early morning, especially with breathlessness, sweating, nausea, or pain spreading to the arm, jaw, or back, is a possible heart attack. Call emergency services immediately, day or night, weekday or Sunday, exactly as I've said in every video, and morning makes that call more urgent, not less. Sudden breathlessness on waking that doesn't settle, or waking gasping with frothy or pink-tinged phlegm, emergency, as I've discussed. Any fast sign in the morning, face drooping noticed in the mirror, an arm that won't work, speech that's slurred or wrong, and remember strokes cluster in the mornings too. Emergency services immediately, even if it seems to pass, as I've discussed with mini strokes. And below the emergencies, the mention promptly list, new chest discomfort during morning exertion that eases with rest. That's the classic pattern of angina, and it deserves a prompt appointment. Morning dizziness on standing that keeps happening despite staged rising, worth a medication and pressure review, and palpitations, a racing or chaotic pulse on waking, worth the pulse check I've described and a mention, because rhythm problems love the adrenaline hours too. The principle under all of it, never let the time of day discount a symptom. If anything, let the morning hours raise your respect for it. So, morning chest pressure, breathlessness, and stroke signs are emergencies by the minute. Morning exertion pain, repeated dizziness, and racing pulses are prompt mentions. And the excuse factory, I slept funny, it's just early, closes today. Let me paint you a quick picture of how all this comes together in the calm way this channel prefers. Picture a man of 74 with treated high blood pressure and a stent from 5 years ago, whose mornings for years have looked like this: alarm, straight up, strong coffee standing at the counter, straight into the news and the emails, medications remembered eventually, sometimes at lunch, and his hardest physical task of the day, hauling the bins up the drive, done first thing in the cold in his dressing gown. Nothing about that morning is wicked, it's simply everything the surge asks you not to do, stacked. Understanding the biology calmly, he reshapes it: the staged rise and the glass of water, breakfast before the news, the medications anchored to the toast, every day without fail, the bins moved to mid-morning, the walk kept but made unhurried, and his home readings, now including proper morning ones, taken to his doctor, who reviews the pattern and fine-tunes the plan, the doctor's decision, not his. And one Tuesday months later, when he does feel an unfamiliar pressure in his chest as he dresses, he does not sit in the armchair waiting for it to be nothing, because he long ago closed the excuse factory. He calls emergency services immediately, and everything that follows goes the way early calls go, which is to say, well, the same man, the same arteries, a different morning, and a different ending. That is what calm knowledge does. That picture is the whole video. And let me speak briefly, as I always do, to those of you caring for an older parent or partner. The morning is the hour to lend your structure, help set up the pill organizer and the breakfast anchor that makes medications automatic. Put the water glass on the nightstand. Encourage the staged rise, especially if they take pressure tablets or water tablets. And where you can, take the heavy or cold morning tasks, the bins, the shoveling, the early lifting, off their plate or onto the afternoons. If they monitor blood pressure, help them log some proper morning readings and bring them to the doctor. And above all, be the household's keeper of the symptom rules. That morning chest pressure, breathlessness, or any fast sign means calling emergency services immediately, not making tea and waiting to see, because in those first morning minutes, the calm resolve of one nearby person is often the whole difference. Helping a loved one build a gentle, consistent, medicated, unhurried morning is quiet work, but against the clock's most demanding hour, it is genuine protection. So let me draw this all together calmly and in proportion. Heart attacks and strokes cluster in the morning hours because dawn is when your body runs its ignition sequence, adrenaline and cortisol rising, blood pressure surging from its overnight low, the blood itself stickier and slower to dissolve clots, an overlap that's harmless in health and demanding on arteries already narrowed, which is why the pattern matters after 70 and with heart disease. The response is not fear of the morning, it is a wiser morning. Rise in stages with water on the nightstand. Sequence calm before stress and gentle before vigorous. Hold the heavy and cold weather efforts for later with a proper warm up. Respect what the first cigarette and the empty stomach strong coffee add. Anchor breakfast and above everything, take your prescribed medications with total consistency because for many of you, they are precisely what smooths the surge, and let your doctor, informed by proper morning home readings, decide whether your medication timing fits your pattern, never adjusting alone. And hold the symptom rules brightest of all. Morning chest pressure, unsettling breathlessness, or any fast sign is an emergency call by the minute. Morning exertion pain, repeated standing dizziness, and racing or chaotic pulses are prompt mentions, and the time of day never discounts a symptom, it raises it. So here's what I'll leave you with, straight and clear. First, respect the surge without fearing it. Dawn biology is normal, it simply deserves a gentle on ramp. Second, build the heart kind first hour, staged, watered, fed, medicated, calm first, vigorous later. Third, put your morning readings in front of your doctor and ask the timing question, then follow their answer faithfully. Fourth, move the heavy, the cold, and the stressful out of the first hour where life allows and warm up always. And fifth, close the excuse factory forever. Morning symptoms are more meaningful, not less. And the early call to emergency services is the single most life saving habit this entire channel teaches. A calm, consistent, unhurried morning repeated every day is one of the quietest and most genuine protections an older heart can have. And it costs nothing but a little sequencing. So take care of yourself. Put the water glass out tonight, rise gently tomorrow, take the tablets with the toast, and let the day's busiest hour find you unhurried. And because the morning surge is managed with your doctor, not around them, please treat your morning blood pressure pattern and any timing questions as conversations for your own physician. Treat new morning exertion symptoms and repeated dizziness as prompt appointments. And treat morning chest pain or pressure, severe breathlessness, or any stroke sign as your reason to call emergency services immediately, whatever the hour. This has touched on heart attacks and morning risks, which can weigh on people. So let me leave you with the proportion that is this channel's promise. The morning surge is normal biology, the protections are gentle and entirely within reach, and a heart cared for calmly, consistently, and in partnership with your doctor has every reason to greet 10,000 more mornings well.